there's lots of cases of either missing the condition altogether or diagnosing as misdiagnosis as another disorder. And even some people who are on oral contraceptives, which is the first line of therapy, a lot of times will actually suppress symptoms. So there may be women who don't realize that they have endometriosis because of being on birth control. DotLab has developed a test that is detecting biomarkers that are circulating the body. These biomarkers are actually microRNAs. So our test is completely non-invasive, something that any patient could easily take. And at this time, we're beginning with, as a medical grade test, it will be a physician-initiated order that, while currently only a subset of OBGYNs can diagnose and identify endometriosis, this test could be ordered by a wide range of physicians in order to identify markers of the disease. The test in our clinical studies has been shown to be quite accurate with over 95% sensitivity and specificity. Our most recent study, a prospective study, which I'll show a little bit about in the coming slides, this can actually detect all stages of the disease, from minimal mild to moderate and severe. So doesn't only detect very severe stages of endometriosis. The microRNA analysis, we will be able to offer the results within 2 weeks from the lab receiving the patient sample. So we're super excited. The test is set to launch later in 2018. I'd like to just highlight some of the differences between the DotLab test versus what else is available currently or in development. I'm not used to looking there, so I'm sorry if I'm not looking at people. This shows whoops, okay, I'm not gonna do that. This is just comparing non-invasive towards the top with invasive towards the bottom, and then diagnosing active disease or confirming active disease versus predicting susceptibility to the disease. So DotLab is in the quadrant there where it's actually able to detect active disease in a non-invasive way. Clearly the laparoscopy is invasive, requires time recovery, the expense. There are several other tests, for example, genetic tests, which DotLab is not. These are actually looking at genes that are associated with developing endometriosis. These predict the risk of the disease, but do not confirm the active disease at the time. So our test is the first to offer those two, non-invasive and confirming the presence of the disease. And our biomarkers and our clinical studies have really stood on the shoulders of over 10 years of foundational work. So our chief medical officer and co-founder, Dr. Hugh Taylor, is from the Yale School of Medicine, and he's actually been researching endometriosis for about 25 years. And in the last 10 years, as he was looking at different genes that are involved in developing the disease, began to look at the role of microRNAs. So just quickly what those are. Instead of a regular gene which is transcribed to a messenger RNA and then made into a protein, a microRNA is actually a small piece of RNA that regulates the expression of other genes. So it's not translated into a protein, but it is expressed in the body, and they can actually circulate in blood and saliva. So in these early studies, he began to identify certain microRNAs that had a role in the disease. And this was the foundation for a comprehensive screen, which I'll share next. We've done several clinical studies, both a retrospective and prospective study, and we're looking forward to launching the test later in 2018. The publication I'm showing here is from Kosar and et al. In 2016 in Fertility and Sterility. So this isn't an exhaustive list, but these bars here in color are showing specific microRNA sequences that were upregulated in patients that had already diagnosed stage 3 and 4 endometriosis. So what we did was, there was 48 patients total, and compared the complete microRNA expression levels. So we took a microarray of microRNAs, meaning one way to probe for over 1,000, 1 or 2,000 microRNAs at the same time. And these are a few examples of the ones that were higher in the women with the disease or downregulated in the women with the disease. So they're very specific for endometriosis as compared to controls that are clinically relevant. So patients that may have been presenting with similar symptoms, but that did not have the disease confirmed by laparoscopy. This is also from that publication. So we're showing AUC scores. So the ROC curve analysis is a way to help determine how accurate a biomarker is to identify the condition. So on an individual basis in this study, the microRNAs had high AUC scores. The closer to 1, the more accurate the diagnosis. In this particular set, once we were actually able to combine 3 microRNAs, we could get a very high AUC score that's shown in the upper right. And the individual scores are shown in the table. So these microRNAs are the basis for our panel. One thing that we're looking forward to publishing, hopefully this summer, was a prospective study, which is kind of the next level of rigor after a retrospective study. So in this case, the study required 52 patients to power to be able to see the effect of different levels of the microRNAs. We actually enrolled 100, and I'll be showing you about 86 here. So what this is doing is, prior to laparoscopic surgery or laparotomy, samples are taken and women are then undergo the procedure. And what we do is compare, did our test correctly predict that they had endometriosis versus what the surgery showed. And we're really excited. This patient group was more diverse than our previously published retrospective study. It included some women on medications, and it included highly, all stages, so from stage 1 to 4 of endometriosis. The control group was a clinically relevant group with a very diverse pathology, so multiple different conditions that may be mistaken for endometriosis. That's why we want to really use that heterogeneous group that you would encounter in a real-world scenario. So after this, we tested the original model that I showed of the first 3 microRNAs on the left here. And it again performed very well to identify women with the condition. And from this, we also were able to further refine the combination of microRNAs because this patient population included a wider variety of stages of the disease. And so from these, we finalized what our test will actually look at. So by combining the signal from different microRNAs, we're really honing in on something that's very specific for endometriosis. So you can keep an eye out for that publication soon. Links to our previously published work are available from the DotLab.com website. And I invite anyone to visit there and go to the For Physicians page. There's also information there. Oops. Oh, my thing went out, but yours didn't. There's also information there for physicians to sign up for early access. So in the remaining time, I think we're a little behind. I'll just quickly discuss some of the patients that we believe that this could help. For our initial patient group, we're looking at either infertility, or where up to 50% of infertile patients may have endometriosis, as well as initial diagnosing, identifying the disease, and determining what pain management strategies to use. And moving forward, we're really hoping DotLab tests can be used for monitoring the disease to see whether the biomarkers go up and down, maybe reflecting the effects of treatment or deciding which type of treatment to use. Just a little more information on the infertility. I think there's been some interesting discussions on this today. It's great to hear about those. And one seminal study on this is just that even suppressing, if endometriosis is identified soon and GnRH agonists are taken even for 3 months, there's about a 50% increase in the success rate of IVF. So identifying it and treating it will help improve outcomes for women that are undergoing IVF. And I guess just to wrap up, so far we've had a really strong positive feedback from patients on social media, and we were at the ASRM conference in the fall, and our collaborators, oh, I just opened a CD drive over here. Our collaborators actually won several prizes for some of the work on biomarkers, as well as some of the central nervous system sensitization, so that was very interesting to hear more about that. Just from being here today, it's really clear that, this type of early test could shift the paradigm and really be helpful to a lot of people. So I look forward to, feel free to direct your questions to me, or you can just email hello@DotLab if you want to be send a direct question, or you can sign up on the contact page, and we'll be sharing more information as we get closer to launch. So I appreciate your time, and thank you so much.